I had a choice right then and there. I could walk away from it all, or I could realize the very first thing I said, I didn't have Christ in the center of my life. I was fortunate enough to meet my wife when I was, back in about 1994, 95, when we were still really young, still in elementary school. I think for me it was love at first sight. So much to the fact that I think I had that classic schoolboy crush where all I could do is sit back and stare in awe and not say a stinking word to her. March of 2003, she graced me with her presence in a concert. Kind of kicked off more than just a friendship, and I was about a week into entering the U.S. Army as a heavy equipment operator. Going in at a time that we were at war and not knowing what tomorrow would bring, but still looking forward to seeing what kind of relationship me and Heather could kindle long distance. At this time, me and Heather, I knew I was going to marry that woman. I just didn't know when, and I was looking at another deployment, and it was time. And I asked her, and she said yes. So we got married at Thorncurl Chapel up in Eureka Springs. January of 2005, I deployed back to Mosul, Iraq with my unit. While I was there, I logged about 19,000 miles over the road, had hundreds of successful missions, but I also took 5 roadside bombs while I was there too. Wrapped up that deployment early 2006. I've now spent my first 18 months of marriage actually away from my wife and not being there by her side. Because of being deployed, emotionally you have to draw yourself in, or I emotionally drew myself in, kind of to the point where you feel numb. You don't realize what's going on around you. You don't want to feel the emotions of everything else going on around you. Coming back from multiple deployments, not really knowing how to shut that off. I found out late part of October of 2020 that my wife had been having an emotional affair with another gentleman. I decided to go for a walk that morning. Just try to change things up. I walk out my front door. I take about 3 steps. I look up and say, Lord, I can't do it anymore. So I don't have the strength to do it. So I need help. It was like he came down and put his hands on my shoulder. He said, son, he says, I'm here. I've always been here and I'll always be here. And he said, but you know what you have to do in order for us to start moving forward. And that was for me to forgive not only my wife, but the gentleman that had started the whole thing. We later had gotten involved with Re-Engage through fellowship, where I met Damon Helt, who was a co-leader in that class. Actually, it wasn't, but after the first class that Damon kind of pulled me aside and said, let's go have a cup of coffee and go dig into the Bible a little bit and see what we can do. And it wasn't about probably a month after that he invited me off onto a men's retreat that kind of changed the trajectory of my outlook on life. So
Paul says that it'll be obvious by the life change that they're followers of Christ. And I've walked beside lots of guys and lived life, and it has been not more apparent in anybody else that I've been walking along than Micheal. I mean, he's encouraged me in my faith in ways that I just can't explain. He came out of men's encounter, and it was remarkable how fast he was reaching out to people in his life that he needed to reconnect with, and what it did in between those relationships. It was just remarkable.
coming to faith happened at the retreat. Obviously, I think he's been working with me a lot longer than what I'd realized, because I came back after that men's retreat, and you never want to question the man. I said, well, Lord, I said, I can never understand my military service. It's against, I have a loving heart, a kind heart. But then I had to look back at the 6 roadside bombs that I took, and you kind of realize maybe there's a little bit something more. As a matter of fact, the very first roadside bomb I took that year happened on the edge of the woods of Nineveh. Go back to Jonah on that one. To realizing that when all of those IEDs had happened, nobody ever got hurt. There was no sort of damage whatsoever done. We were able to continue on. So I like to think that God had a hand in getting me this far. After coming out of the men's retreat, surrendering to the Lord, finally forgiving myself for a lot of things in my past, a lot of forgiveness and a lot of compassion on my heart, walking through re-engage with my wife, first with Christ being in the center of our lives, and then being able to know how to communicate with one another and everything that we need, what we were dealing with on a day-to-day basis. Felt a little bit of a calling to do more, wanting to do more, wanting to serve more, but I wanted to do it with my partner by my side. March 1st of this past year, my wife was diagnosed with cancer in an ER. She later passed March 29th of the same year from stage 4 lung cancer. For a while, I questioned, why do I feel like I'm being held back? How can one person feel so lonely, but yet not be alone? Knowing that we're not designed in this life to do it all alone, that we have to have somebody there along with us to do it. And I choose the Lord every day, but it's also a choice. As far as what tomorrow brings, I don't know, but as I continue to walk with the Lord, I see nothing but blessings ahead for me, so.